Hi, folks. You are watching and listening to Open Bar. It's a special edition of Open Bar. I'm Mike Morales here in Southern California. The gentleman in the blue t-shirt is
Skip Falconer in Los Angeles.
And the young lady in her beautiful kitchen is
Mara Smith from Chicago.
Mara Smith is our guest tonight, today, depending on when you're watching this, because it doesn't matter, because we stream on demand. I'm so excited to have you with us, Mara, because you are the innovator of this tequila. I don't know if you can see this on my screen. It's Inspiro. And I have to show the box, Mara, because I think Skip and I could have done like 25 minutes on just your packaging.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Did you design this yourself? Was this something that you did on your own, or how did this come about?
Yes. In fact, the bottle, my mom and I were sketching drawings of the bottle. That's kind of the first thing I actually designed and developed, because I wanted something unique. And I also, if you noticed, it's really easy to hold and pour. So that was part of the design element, is I wanted to make sure there's something that was easy for me to grab and pour. So creating a unique and really like sleek and sophisticated bottle, that was actually the first thing I did when I started the brand. And this was a lot of iterations, and actually my mom and I sketching things on random pieces of paper to try and come up with an idea.
So was it, I know that when Skip and I talked about it, we looked at the bottle and we said, well, it's got to kind of look, it's white, first of all, because it's rare you see a white bottle. And it's got one of those nice wine caps on it too. I actually prefer these myself because they seal really nicely. And then, and then they seal, they uncork really nicely too. Yeah, wow. I still have some. So I need to ask you, I know there was a lot of planning that went into this. Obviously, it's obvious. We loved, Skip and I were very impressed with all the little details that you put on the point of sale material that we call it.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for your note. That was very kind, because we're lucky if we get anything. we get a business card and that's it. But sometimes we get some nice information. I want to know what possessed you to go into the tequila industry, because you come from a finance background, right?
All right. I guess I'm a glutton for punishment. I have a CPA, so an accounting degree, and then I practiced law at a large law firm in Chicago, and then I did corporate strategy for a Fortune 100 company. So all the kind of like analytical side of it. And most recently, actually, I was a stay-at-home mom, and had been deciding what my next was going to be, and knew I was going to start my own company. And I really wanted to be, if I was going to start something, I wanted to be something that I really like and enjoy. And so tequila was kind of a natural fit.
Wait. So you're a tequila drinker?
I'm a tequila drinker.
What were you drinking before you came up with your own?
I know. So I've taste tested, if you saw my bar. I'm sure you have more in your bar, but I've taste tested a lot of tequilas. So it was kind of, I discovered tequila.
Skip has an enormous bar. We if you follow us on Instagram, you can see all of Skip's collection. My stuff is in boxes in my living room because I have no shelf space. So I have not seen your bar, Mara. So I have no idea what it looks like. I'm sure it's more organized than mine.
But I taste test a lot, like every new brand that comes out. But I became a tequila drinker. I've been like gluten-free for over 10 years. I found that it was like just a cleaner drink that kind of fit into my healthier lifestyle, and discovered, really great tequilas that were not like the stuff that used to, make you sick in college. And I just thought,
you had those experiences too?
Yes. Well, there's some people who still have PTSD from them. So.
Oh yeah.
But a lot of, I started converting many of my girlfriends into becoming tequila drinkers, and kind of switching out their, vodka sodas for tequila sodas. and really discovered that a lot of women seem to be drinking, more and more women drinking tequila, and that being their drink of choice. But I didn't think any of the brands really focused on them as a primary consumer. I just thought, and especially from the bottle design aspect, I thought everything on the shelf to me was very masculine and didn't particularly appeal to me as the consumer. So I just thought there was an opportunity to innovate and just focus on a consumer that's, pretty overlooked in the industry, but actually makes up half of tequila drinkers.
Well, there was, hang on a second. Alexa, stop. I have her playing classical music and I forgot to have, the killer.
I love it.
But anyway, yeah, but I like having her here. We know that the number that we have researched before, 70% of all buying decisions are made by women. And I've said that for years. Skip will tell you that I harp on that forever. And
All the time.
Yeah, all the time. And almost to a fault, because I really believe that, and I'll get into this in a second, but we wrote a book that apparently you read called Babes to Boss Ladies, which I didn't know. Was that part of that inspiration? Because I knew that there had to be more women behind the scenes, and I just had to look for them. Because if you think that the industry was all male dominated, by male dominated bottles, the industry in Mexico is really dominated by that. And yet there are a lot of them now that are coming into their own, and you're part of that. You are, you're in that flow. How did you find our favorite master distiller? That's what I want to know.
Anna Maria.
Yeah.
So, so if I was going to bring a female perspective, I really wanted women involved in every part of the process. So when I decided to do this, I said, okay, we're going to focus on this consumer, because I think there's a lot of potential there and kind of an opportunity there in the market, because they do make a ton of the purchasing decisions and they're the main entertainer in the home. And then I said, there are so few women in the spirits industry overall, and especially in tequila. If I was going to do it, I wanted women involved in every part of the process, from creating the taste profiles to getting it on the shelves. So I did read your book as part of my process, and I actually bought probably like 4 or 5 of your books, just so you know, to understand the industry, production. I went through the CRT award T certification process. Like when I decided I was going to go in, I was all in and did my research. So I read, about all the women in tequila, and yes, there are a number of women that have been behind the scenes. I just don't think a lot of them have been at the forefront. You haven't seen them. There's a lot of women, working in Mexico and the production, but you just don't hear about a lot of them and you don't see it. So I read about it and I knew I wanted a female master distiller. So I kind of narrowed down the list, and it's a small list. So it's not like there were, a plethora of options, but I narrowed it down. And after I read about Ana Maria Romero Mena and the aromas and just her methodology, she's an artist, but she's also really scientific about her approach. I said, I want her. So the next thing was just getting connected to her. And I was fortunate that I have some consultants down in Mexico, and they were able to, through another connection, get to her, and she loved the idea and was totally on board and had never worked with a woman-owned company before.
Yeah.
So
wow.
Yeah, that she we wrote about her in the book, and I should probably just pull it down. It's my bookshelf up here, or just show it. But it's called Babes to Boss Ladies, and she was one of the very first women that I interviewed, aside from Ana Valenzuela, who was a scientist, a botanist, and I met her personally, and she was the one that inspired me to look for more women in this industry, because among the men that she knew, she was very highly regarded as a scientist. Anything that she would recommend and these guys were agave growers primarily, who had made a fortune in the last agave shortage. Many of the agaveros made money and they built their own distilleries, and these are the guys that she's been helping since, or one of them. And like I say, just her story, hearing it from the male perspective, from the agavero / tequilero, where he said, I remember when you were a little girl, you used to walk my fields and break off all the needles, and she would count them. This was prior to her studying, her doctorate, So I just to hear these stories coming from other men who highly regarded her, I said, there's got to be other ladies out there who are doing the same thing and are getting the respect. Maybe they're not getting, the appearance a lot. So I applaud you for going that direction, because you couldn't have picked a better lady, because she's been one of our big supporters at Tequila Aficionado. I told Skip that he needs to get one of her aroma kits that's available.
Yeah, amazing.
Only
And trying to.
Yeah, only in Mexico apparently it's available, but no, I don't think so. I think she could ship around the world. I'll find out, but everybody should get one, because it's just her tools, her every single brand that she touches is a winner, and right now she's got a few that are right now highly regarded on just everybody wants them on their shelves. You're gonna fit right in really nicely, I can just tell. So what happened in your first meeting with her?
Yeah. So it's funny because you said having also like the respect of the men in the industry too, because sometimes I feel like it doesn't give enough credit to her when I just, describing her as like a female master distiller that I wanted, because I think she's highly regarded and one of the top just master distillers. I don't think we need to even, give, preface it with like female master distiller, because she is amazing at what she does among all master distillers. So our first meeting, was via Zoom, because I launched this literally right before the pandemic. I couldn't get down to Mexico. So every time we had a plan to go, it just got canceled and didn't happen. So we'd been talking via Zoom, and I'd been telling her kind of like exactly what we're looking for, which type of taste profiles, what I want the outcome to be, because we had a really good sense of that. We had done, customer research with focus groups and surveys. So we had an idea of what this consumer really liked and what taste profiles. My big, what I really wanted to do to differentiate is I wanted to create those taste profiles they were looking for. They like the sweeter notes, easy to drink, but I wanted her to do it, which I knew Anna Maria would do, is without any additives. So she was able to create exactly the notes and the taste profile we were looking for. Actually, I had suggested that maybe we have this like really slight aging, or resting process for a Blanco to get those sweet notes and kind of smoothness and easy sippability for a sippable Blanco without having to add anything. And then I finally got to meet her for our official tasting. And that was the like late spring of 2021. And when you talk about her aroma kits and everything, being led through a tasting by Anna Maria Romero is amazing. So she starts with everybody going around the table and identifying aromas with the aroma kits. And she has a very precise way of how she thinks, the way you should smell the glass, get the aromas around the clock. And it was that actually for me was the kind of highlight of the whole process. Actually seeing Inspiro Tequila in front of me, having our samples and having Anna Maria walk us through the tasting. It was a really exciting, kind of like a surreal experience.
It's it gets spiritual, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was kind of also, with the time and the travel, and I'd left like 5 a.m, went straight to the distillery, was doing this. Everything was just like a whirlwind. It was an incredible. She has just her process of how even she conducts a tasting. Like she has a very set, methodical process about the entire thing, you know, from the temperature control to, you know, like the things on the table that you want to have in between to cleanse your palate. I mean, it's an amazing experience.
I know several people in the industry who have taken her class, and it's interesting because, you know, she many times you see a lot of men take her class, as opposed, and women now too, of course, but I think I'll have to ask her when I get a chance to find out what the ratio is to when she does classes to men to women, because the men that take her class speak the same way you do, with the same look on their face, and it's like, oh, it's like an experience. And yeah, I hope, you know, we've been in communication for a long time. She's like I say, a really great supporter of ours. And I mean, when Skip and I learned that she was involved, I said, I gotta talk to this lady, because I gotta find out how, you know, we talk to a lot of brand owners, a lot of up and coming brand owners, that there's more and more of these brands coming on board, coming online. A lot of these were started way before the pandemic, and they had to, you know, 2020 just slowed them down a little bit, but you can't slow this train. You know what I mean? I've talked to people, I've consulted with people who said, I have to launch. I don't have a choice, you know, because my investors are ready to, you know, pull the trigger. And so when I talk to them, I asked them, you know, why did I like, for instance, what sort of challenges are you coming up against right now? Because you come from a completely different field, and now you're in left field. What are you running up against something other than the, you know, the pandemic, all those obstacles? You know, what do you see now? I mean, especially here in the States with the distribution and things like that.
Yes, that's the biggest challenge really for a small new brand, right? Like, you know, when you said the boxes, and did we come up with them? Like, it's literally me sitting on the floor of my dining room. So this is not someone, you know, putting their label on something that's just, you know, created and someone else is running. This is like me doing everything from, you know, federal registrations to barcodes so there's a ton.
Good thing you're a
Definitely, lawyer. Exactly. The compliance issues, at least I could get my, you know, wrap my head around, because there are a lot of them.
Yep.
But because we still have, you know, all the regulatory issues, so distribution is it's a really hard thing to kind of penetrate for a brand new brand, especially, I mean, we launched right before year end. So we launched online end of September, which is not an ideal, you know, time to try and get, you know, a distributor or into retail during, you know, October, November, December. So really the plan is for 2022. But I also think as a small brand, I was able to really utilize, you know, e-commerce and our own website and our platform. And then we're on 3 other, you know, tequila e-commerce platforms.
Which ones
so
are they?
I'm on Sip Tequila, Ferment and Still, and Old Town Tequila. And then our site, inspirotequila.com. And you know, you can get a lot of learnings from that, especially our site. So here I have a lot of metrics and analytics, and that'll help dictate which geographic locations we should go into. But it's also just a way to spread, you know, some brand awareness and get out there initially before maybe you have distribution in different states. I mean, obviously the first state for me will be Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
But before you have distribution and that you have retail presence. So, I mean, I think that's frankly the biggest challenge for any new brand, is that, you know, no matter how I can sell or go find accounts, you need a distributor in order to sell to the accounts.
Yep.
Well, Myra, what about your Purple Bicycle Project. Mike asked about the tequila. I want to know about your special project that you have going on.
Thank you. Well, it's kind of always been part of the mission. Is I thought if I'm going to bring this perspective, I also want to help other women and support other female founders, not necessarily in the spirits industry, but just other founders who are getting started. I've been very fortunate that I'm a part of a lot of different women's organizations, and they've been really collaborative, and they help and they provide guidance and feedback. And I've connected with so many different female founders and leaders who have given me guidance that it was very important to me to give back. I do a ton of research. So I was thinking, okay, maybe I can help someone like skip a few steps ahead and not have to do the exhaustive research in some area that I did and help them out a little bit. And so I wanted to give back, whether it's, providing grants to help people get started and some mentoring and advising. So we actually sponsored it before we were out for sale. We sponsored a pitch competition for the Women's Founders Network last year. And then this year I just had a call today. We're figuring out which not-for-profit we're gonna partner with for 2022. And I want to do something, for me, I want it to be a little more hands-on. So as opposed to just donating money, I want to find one where we can select grant recipients and where I can also provide some mentoring services. So whatever I've learned up until this point, that I can also help guide some other founder. And I truly live by that. I answer and I put that out there, and then my team kind of laughs because I do. Every single email, every LinkedIn message, every DM, I answer and meet with everybody. So
wow.
Anyone who's looking for any guidance.
So not only a great tequila, but a great person. Wow.
Thank you.
Good combination.
Hey, I had it was interesting because I had another guest that we recorded, and the reason I was anxious to meet that person online and interview him was because there was something in the juice that made me recall some of the old style tequilas that I had before. That there was this is not, and I find it similar with your brand as well. And in fact, I think Skip and I talked about it, and that's why I wanted Skip on here with me, because we said this is not a soulless tequila. In other words, like you said earlier, Mara, you said that you're not slapping a label on something that was sitting in the tank, and your team is selling it because you're doing something else. You're in front of the brand, you're behind the brand, you're behind the scenes. I was very impressed with the research that you've done, because I consult with people who haven't done half the research that you've done, and they're already needing to go online. They're already needing to launch this thing, whether you like it or not, right? And sometimes I wish these people had come to me sooner, because I would have maybe either discouraged them or said, you need to do a little bit more work, But you obviously have done that. But the thing is, this is not just like that other brand, it's not a soulless brand. There's something in there that I detect that's more than just the recipe and the flavors. There's an intention in there, and that's what I felt with this brand that I haven't felt in a long time up until just recently. But it's different. It's not the old school intention, because with that other brand that I'm bringing up, I'm referencing, it turns out that the influence was coming from the great grandfather. There was an influence that was in the juice from way back, from the old school. This has an intention and an influence that's current. It's now, and it's different, but it's not unlike that other one. It's almost like this is the new old school. Okay, so I don't know what else. I don't know how else to pair this. So tell me about the process of getting the flavor profile. did she get it right? Did she hit it on the nose? Did you go like bonkers and go, this is it right here? Or were you like, there were 3 or 5 of them that were like really close?
Yeah. So I think yes, it's meant to be contemporary, right? I wanted to have a little more contemporary look, feel, everything about it. And it is really, we're very meticulous about everything. And maybe that's because I'm really, really detail oriented. So,
No kidding.
we created this great bottle, and I really want to make sure the juice matched the bottle. So, and that's why Anna Maria also is a perfect partner for me, because she is very meticulous in her process. And that's kind of how I do things. I mean, from everything, when you said the marketing materials in there, I mean, every single thing I'm reviewing and looking at and correcting, and it has to be like exactly the messaging,
the copy, everything, the pictures, even the way it's laid out on your card. It's just, it's better than some of the stuff that we get, right, Skip?
Oh yeah.
Sometimes, like I said, sometimes we get nothing. But yeah, please, I mean, there's an ingredient in here that's infused with, and the only thing I can name it is intention.
It is. And honestly, the first, it wasn't all smooth sailing, like, oh, we hit it, on head, like nail on the head the first time out. So actually our entire first run, and luckily we had kind of divided up into like 2 different separate runs, because the entire first run, Anna Maria didn't think it cooled enough before it was mashed, and I didn't love the end result, and she didn't love it, and I had them get rid of the entire thing.
Wow.
So I just said, they're like, what if we can do this and maybe we can blend or do something? I'm like, if it's not exactly right, I don't want it at all. So we actually got rid of, so that's why things were very delayed in our launch. But I really wanted to make sure it was done. It was right, and that we got it exactly how we wanted. And even after I went to Mexico and tasted the 4 profiles and I chose one, I'm like, but I still want a little bit of a tweak here. So we still have to go through another iteration before it was final. So, I mean, I'm sure processes can take even longer, but it's not like we got it on the first, go around. But both of us are very particular. So that's good. I mean, same for now. She's been working on a reposado, and she's like, it's not done. It's not done. I'm like, okay, well, you're going to tell me when it's done, right? So
That's what I was going to ask.
That was you were wondering, and so was I, when we taste a really great Blanco, sometimes whoever the taster happens to be that I'm doing the tasting with, I say, I wonder what this is going to be like once they age it and they put it in a barrel. Are they even going to do that? I'm glad. I kind of lurked on a previous interview you did, where you said you thought the Reposado was going to come out like December. We're actually taping this in December. You're probably seeing this in first quarter of 2022.
Exactly. Now we're hopeful for February, but it's just a process that can't be rushed. Even our Blanco, It takes a very long time. We are not a quick Blanco. It is not manufactured and distilled in like a matter of days or a week or anything like that. It takes a long time. So it's just a thoughtful, meticulous process. And same for the Reposado. It's taken, a long time to get it to exactly the point where we wanted it. They actually just sent out my newest samples. So I'm very excited. They just went out, like, I think it was last Friday. So I'm still waiting to receive them, but hopefully we'll get that bottled out in February.
How would you describe your Blanco?
Tasting note wise, I say sweet notes with a hint of citrus. So sweet like vanilla, cooked agave, caramel, I'd say hints of citrus like grapefruit and a little bit of a mint. So a little herbal, very little bite. very little bite as far as like, especially on the back end, very little bite for a Blanco. It's not a super, I'd say it's not a very intense Blanco, but still complex. And just, I think dangerously easy to drink.
Yeah, I've had to hide this bottle. If I didn't intend to try to get an interview with you, I was gonna, this bottle would be half gone already because it's that good. Skip, how did you find her? How would you sum up what we found in our tasting? And to be fair, you haven't seen our tasting, hasn't aired. It'll probably be one of the first ones that in 2022, because that's when you're going to see this interview. What do you think? How you probably went to revisit, but what do you think?
I thought she had very nice sweet notes, citrusy, of course, a lot of agave, and yes, very easy to drink.
Yeah. See, and what impressed me the most is the level of complexity in the Blanco, because it wasn't I've had other Blancos that were, I would probably term as soft, much softer in the flavor profile. This had a lot of character. I said that to Skip on the review. I said, this is not a fluffy frou-frou tequila. A guy would probably maybe not feel comfortable buying this off the shelf unless his wife told him to get it. But I went on camera and I said, you know what, guys, don't be afraid to take this off the shelf, because it's got enough character to keep you going. And that's what impressed me the most, is that it wasn't, and like I say, I've had other tequilas. Skip, maybe you've had some. You remember the original Four Copas that
Yes.
came out? We said it was a very soft tequila because it had no finish, no bite to it. This one still has something there. It's just got way more character than I remember the Four Copas having. And I thought, wow, this is not a tequila that a guy should turn down, because
They'll be crazy. They'll be crazy.
yeah.
And we actually,
I'm waiting on the Reposado.
it's going to be pretty incredible. But they just did a blind taste testing, and actually the men gave it a higher overall average than even the women in the blind taste testing. So it's not really to the exclusion that men wouldn't like it. I don't think the bottle, it's not like bright pink or anything. It's just that we just focused first and foremost on, women, because they're generally not the first, consumer that's focused on. But it's not to, it's not that men wouldn't drink it or don't like it. I've run actually my own unscientific taste testings among many men to see what they pick, and did blind taste testings, and they also chose it. So I think, yes, it's definitely not to the exclusion. It's just, I thought it was time to really focus on a female consumer, because they do make up a big part of the market, and speaking to them and how they want to be spoken to. So there are certain marketing messages that just don't resonate with me and don't seem to focus on a female consumer.
Yeah, there's a lot of I tell Skip, and I've told this to a lot of the other tasters, it's very rare when you get all the elements together to work. Great bottle, great juice, lousy management. You have great marketing, great bottle, lousy juice. There's all kinds of different variations, and it's rare that you get the perfect storm where everything works. How do you like being in front of your brand? Because you're going to do more and more of this in 2022. So how do you feel? How do you feel being the face of the brand?
It's really exciting. It's also very unique, a very unique position for me. So I would say I generally would consider myself more of an introvert. I think the first time people saw me really like out of my element, and this was when I did LA Tequila, and I was there for an entire day handing out like 500 or 600 samples and talking to everybody and talking about the brand. And I brought a friend with me, because when I say we're like, this is small operation, it was like I had my brother-in-law who's from LA there helping me. I brought my friend with me, and she was just kind of taken aback. I can't believe I saw you, talking about it and talking to people, and you were just in your element, talking about it all day. And I think the reason I'm able to do it is because I'm really excited about it and believe in it and think it's a really great, unique offering. I mean, if I didn't believe in it and truly think it was something special, I probably would have a much harder time. I'm very authentic and transparent about things. So I wouldn't be someone who would be very good at, kind of talking about something that I didn't really think was great. I mean, I did a photo shoot yesterday, and I brought my friends in to do the group shots because I said, I don't want fake people. I don't want models pretending to drink it. So I recruited my girlfriends and I said, you guys have to come and do a photo shoot. They were all like begrudgingly, they're like, okay, because we love you, we'll show up. They're like, oh gosh. But that everything just has to be, really authentic. So I feel like I'm the face of it because you have to see who's behind it because, there's nobody else. So, I mean, we have a team and I have people who help and support me, but I can't say there's a female perspective and you don't see whose perspective that is.
There's one other lady that comes to mind that runs her business. She has a tequila as well. It's an organic tequila, who's very much the same way. I even said this to Skip when we did the review. I kind of lurked all over your Instagram because I had to see where you are literally on the floor building these boxes herself. I mean, if you folks have not seen her Instagram, go check it out. She shows you everything that that went into the brand as it came online in the market. How's the reception been to Inspiro, and where did you get that too?
I know. So, okay, well, Inspiro means inspired, as I'm sure you know. And really and I went through this whole like naming process and it was driving me crazy. And all of a sudden one night, of course, it's, typical, it just came to me. And because I really wanted to do something and named it kind of after my inspirations, which were my grandmother and my mother, who are just really incredible. My grandmother passed away a couple of years ago, but just incredibly strong women who have always kind of believed in me and supported me, and I guess gave me the confidence to think I could, do anything and go into any industry. I've always had like a really strong math background, and I studied, mathematical areas like engineering, and then I transferred into accounting. I guess it never fazed me that those were typically kind of male dominated, areas, because they just, encouraged me, and I never thought twice about it. I just worked really hard and focused. So because they were really the inspiration behind me, feeling like I was capable, I wanted it to be named, after them. So that's where I came up with Inspiro, based on those, female inspirations in my life.
See, there's that story again.
Yep.
I love it. Because again, it's very much the same thing that I had with this other gentleman that I spoke to, who had stories of his great-great-grandfather and the great-grandfather, and how that influence kind of, takes over where he's at now. And now these are the contemporary tequileros. And I would say you're right in there with them, because you have a story. I was really intrigued by everything. It was enough to want me to, and that's why I watched some of your other interviews too. Not that I normally don't do that, because I want every interview to be different, and because I never know where I'm going anyway half the time. I like these things to be organic, but I wanted to there was something about Mara Smith that I wanted to know more about, the story, the backstory. We can never get enough backstory from The Rock, no matter how much he thinks he's exposing himself. How much of that is his acting and how much of that is wrestling, whereas with you, it's not like that. And I think that's an element that's missing in a lot of mainstream tequilas, but it's making its way back, because I tell Skip this and a lot of the other guys. I kind of grew up watching the industry, you know, in the last 20 some odd years, where it's been and where it's going, and many times right now it's almost like off the rails, and it needs to be reined back in. And there are some young men with pedigree who are thinking the same thing. There's ladies like you who are thinking the same thing. When I wrote that book, I said, I took a quote from the Dalai Lama, and he said, the world will be saved by the Western woman. And it's probably some of the wisest things I've ever read. And that was, you know, back in the 1980s or 90s when he said that. And I've been on that bandwagon ever since, because I know that there are certain supply situations going on with tequila. The agave right now is tough to get. Luckily, you have Ana Maria guiding you in that direction. I'm sure she picked the distillery as well, right?
Actually, I selected the distillery.
Really? How did you do that? Tell me about that. I want to know. I want to know how you did that.
Another crazy story. Everything just started to align when I got this idea and started running with it. Things just began to align. I was like, okay, I think it's meant to be. I was introduced to the former CEO of Madhava Agave, who is a woman who is actually on my advisory board now. And I have an amazing all-female advisory board. And she told me about the corporation that produces the agave syrup, and was telling me that, oh, they also are trying to, you know, build up their tequila portfolio, and they had just recently purchased the distillery that we're at. So I'd been talking to them, and that was my first conversation, was talking to them about, you know, them making my tequila. Then I went and had my consultants go around, and I did all these virtual tours of all these other distilleries. And of course I ended up at the first one that I talked to. You know, one, I wanted to bring in my own chef into someone else's kitchen. So
Right.
that limits you, right? I knew I was bringing in Ana Maria, so I had to make sure I could work with a distillery that would allow me to do that.
Right.
So that narrowed it down, what I wanted from production capabilities. And it was also important to me, since I did do a ton of research on all the different distilleries, I wanted one that wasn't producing for a lot of brands, because I wasn't going to tweak someone's kind of, you know, stock tequila, and I didn't want to just tweak it. I wanted to start something from scratch. So it was important to me that I work with a distillery that didn't have a huge portfolio of brands. So I narrowed it down based on having, you know, the capacity to scale, as well as that I could get a lot of attention too, right? So if I'm one of like a ton of brands, I wasn't going to get a lot of attention. I wanted someone who would let us create it and then would follow Ana Maria's, you know, recipe. So that's kind of how it ended up. And frankly, how I started with them is they have a lot of agave because they produce agave syrup. So they have agave, and since there have been agave shortages, that makes a difference, having a distillery that has access to agave.
Right. So you were the one. I have to check and see what the number is on this again.
1614.
1614. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
How many distilleries did you have to go through before you?
We talked to, I did tours of just a few, but that's after I had them scope them out and find out about them. So my list, I had like a short list initially, maybe like 10, and then we just kept narrowing it down and narrowing it down. And I couldn't go because it was during COVID when this all happened. So I had people on the ground going through. But, you know, it's kind of funny because people always look at the distillery, which I'm sure you do, and say, okay, well, they produce, you know, another brand, but because she is picking which agave she wants from which field, the age, how she wants it cooked, it's our own recipe. So I've never tried the juice from that distillery because I'm not using their juice. You know, I haven't tried the other product they produce because it really has no relation to ours. Like she used different yeast strains, she has different cuts, she has a different cooking process, like cooling, stabilization. So, you know, I feel like as long as they had the resources, equipment she needed, the people that are really organized and are very professional that, we needed, that was kind of like how I selected it, because we're not
Very
using
nice.
their product.
That was serendipitous. That was fortunate because
Hmm.
it doesn't always work out like that. But yeah, you're right. You were meant to go into this business. Did you tell me what the reception is with how was it besides LA? I mean, how has it been with the rest of the
Yes.
market?
Well, I think there's like two different parts of the, market. So I have like kind of my consumer, who I wouldn't say is like an aficionado necessarily, but really, really excited. Like all the women that hear about this are very excited about, Tequila brand. They love the packaging. They love the taste profile. So every time I can get out in front of, groups of women and get them tasting it, it's amazing. And I get great reception and really excited about it. Actually, I am shocked by how receptive and excited people are to say, oh my gosh, I love tequila. I'm so excited. There's because there's also something about women that if you offer the same quality, as long as the same quality product, they are 90% more likely to purchase from a woman owned if the quality is there.
Mhm.
So, and then from, people like you, aficionados, we've gotten great reception from Tequila. Matchmaker loved it and put us in their blind taste testing. Just, we've sent it out we haven't got a lot of awards back yet because of the timing, but sent it out for awards, reviews. People love the packaging. I think we've got people have been very receptive, and first and foremost, they get excited about the bottle, because I think when they do get it, it does seem unique and stand out. And then when they try it, I feel like everyone is also pleasantly surprised that it is really good and not just a bottle and just the bottle out there for marketing, but that the liquid inside is also really, really good and very high quality. And so, yeah, I think from every perspective, we've had like really great feedback. My favorite part is actually seeing people taste it and hearing what they have to say, because that's like what I always wait for. Okay, well, tell me what you think after you try it.
So these tastings, are you ready to do tastings? I mean, coming 2022, you're going to be they're not always going to all be shows. I mean, you're going to be in a liquor store for a couple hours, and trying to get people to get it past their lips. I mean, you're going to. What sort of objections are you getting from non-tequila drinkers? How do you? Are you seeing any of that? I mean, how are you attacking that objection?
We have not from non-tequila, at least the women that we presented to, who maybe aren't used to tequila as much. I think they maybe expected that you have to put it into like what people do is like put it into like a sugary cocktail and kind of mask it a lot. And then when, like, for example, at LA Tequila, when I would give out samples, I'm like, you could have it, neat or on the rocks, a little soda. And then they taste it, just on some, on the rocks. And they're really pleasantly surprised that it's very easy to drink, even if you're not a big tequila drinker. So, and as far as the tastings, and obviously we need to get liquid to lips, I think our strategy is a little bit more about like finding consumer where she is. So I don't know that our consumer is necessarily going down the aisles of the local liquor store and necessarily doing a lot of tastings and saying, what are the new tequila brands? I think she's probably hearing about it a little bit more from friends, bringing it to her, trying it somewhere, seeing it at an event. Like, I'm trying to find our customer, where she is and speak to her there. So if it's sponsoring different women's networking events or things like that, and then giving her the opportunity to taste it, that's a little bit of my strategy. I mean, I'm sure there'll be plenty of off-premise tastings at retailers, but I think really to hone in and find this customer, I need to, I think it has to be like maybe a little bit more grassroots and hosting things and providing, Inspiro Tequila for these groups of women who are gathering, and that's how they're going to learn about it. And then, tell their friends about it and, bring it and gift it.
Have you had a chance to, go ahead, Skip.
Are you familiar with any of the other female owners? Because there's
That's
one.
where I was going.
There's Tiffany Hainsworth, who's in your area of the state in Michigan, who has a Tea Capri.
I don't know her. So I've reached out. I actually know a lot of women who are not in tequila, but just in the spirits industry. So I've kind of reached out to everyone through like the Women's Cocktail Collective. So I'm, connected with woman-owned gin and Amari and scotch and whiskey and like a lot of other women in the spirits industry. And it's very helpful. In tequila, there are like maybe 2 other brands that are women-owned certified. But I have not talked to them. I've talked to a lot of people in, that are in the tequila industry, but I have not talked to the other female founded brands. I mean, I think there's a few of them. We're probably, I'd say probably less than what you can count on one hand. And certified women-owned certified. I think there are only 3 of us, and 2 are, whatever, like 40 ABV super premium tequilas, and 1 is like an infused tequila.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
okay.
That's all right.
Does it sound about right?
Yeah, you're about right. There are there's some that are part of a group of owners, and 1 or 2 will be female. But as far as wholly female owned, there's maybe, like you're right, a couple. Tea Capri, you're right, Skip. That's one of them. Tiffany Haynes. In fact, I'd like to actually speak with her. I'm trying to catch up with everybody, but we've also spoken to Lisa Elovich, who is the One with Life.
One with Life, yep.
Yeah, and
she's certified woman-owned also.
Yeah, and she's also a lawyer, or was. So the 2 of you, I just want to be the fly on the wall when the 2 of them meet, because you'll meet one day, and I'm sure you'll.
Which would be amazing.
Are you still practicing law?
I am not. I left that. I'm a reformed attorney. Although that's not necessarily true. I'm kind of a fool for a client. So I do a lot of my own legal work now. Probably not the wisest thing, but because I can, I just do it. So I do a lot of my own contracts and MNDAs and all my federal registrations and things like that.
There you go.
How long did it take you to get this off the ground? Because I've heard from past owners, I've heard people say, well, it's anywhere from 2 to 5 years before you actually hit the shell, before you can actually get it to the border. How long did it take you to come up with Inspiro and get it to where it is right now?
It took me 18 months to get it.
Wow. See, and that only happens because you're your own lawyer. I know.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, the amount of work I put in was probably double the time. I mean, it has been, I don't want to make it seem like it's easy for anybody, but because it's been, countless and countless hours and work going into it. It is not starting, a brand from scratch is not like a 9 to 5 thing. It's nonstop. So, but yes, I was really, and I actually wanted it to launch Cinco de Mayo. So that was late for me. I was pushing and pushing, but because I told you the first production run didn't work out. So it ended up taking like 18 months to finally, bring it in, get into the States, and have the whole first run here.
Where do you see the brand in 5 years?
I really hope that it'll be a national brand and that people will see it on retail shelves everywhere. But I'm going to say, as we're doing everything else really thoughtfully, that has to be done really kind of diligently and thoughtfully too, right? I don't want to put it out there and kind of spread ourselves too thin. We're going to be really strategic and careful about the geographic locations. I've just heard some kind of horror stories about trying to get out there right away and let's get into 9 states off the bat or things like that. So that's just not my strategy. It's initially to go, inch wide, mile deep in my own backyard and maybe one other geographic location, and make sure we have the support there and that it can be done really, carefully. And as we enter markets, to just be really kind of thoughtful about which markets and the timing of that, so that we're doing it the right way, and that we make sure that we have the people there and on the ground to support it, because I'm well aware of the fact that because I am small, it has to be us doing the selling and my team, and no one else is going to do that for us. So
Skip, before we wrap all of this up, is there something you want to ask Mara? That was there something, a burning question you have for her?
No, I've asked my burning questions. I was real excited about her purple bicycle because I'm into the humanity aspect of things, and your purple bicycle project really. And I loved your story about being 4 years old and getting on that purple bike with those white shiny rims, and you falling and getting back up because someone told you that you couldn't ride that bike. I love that story.
Thank you. I was wondering if you read the story. Oh God, yes, it's a true story. I guess it also shows resiliency, but also my stubbornness. So
yeah.
even at a young age.
Yeah. I wonder how many people told you couldn't launch a tequila brand.
Right.
Oh, yes. Especially coming into, as you've been in the industry for a long time. It's really difficult as an outsider coming in. I didn't realize until I started getting in, like everybody seems, it's kind of everybody knows each other, and it takes a little bit of time to gain some credibility in there if you're coming as an outsider, and trying to get into spirits, and in particular to tequila, because there's such a history around it, and the perception that people to kind of just come in and don't know what they're doing and get started. So that's why I did so much due diligence, and that's why I thought I had to do the CRT program. And I read the books that you wrote. I read about the kosher certified tequilas to the babes and tequila, to everything.
Thank you.
So yes, we actually just finished our kosher certification process.
Yay! I'm all about that stuff, because it's when like I wrote in the book, the kosher industry is $1 billion industry. You don't want to overlook any segment of any market. What do you, if you had one thing to say to people about your brand, what do you want them to know about Inspiro?
I think the biggest takeaway I want people to have is that we just are thoughtful. Like, we are considerate of our consumer. We think it's a thoughtful consumer who cares about what they eat and drink and who they purchase from. And we try to be as, thoughtful and considerate, and really respect who the consumer is and not talk down to them. So that's what I would say.
Well,
beautiful.
Yeah. I think I got nothing else to say, because I'm done here. Folks, you've been watching and listening to Open Bar with Mara Smith, who is the composer of Inspiro Tequila. Well, part composer, because I think Ana Maria is the other half of that writing team. I can't say enough about this brand. I'm totally behind it. I'm behind you and your efforts. I hope one day soon we get to meet. I am in Southern California. So is Skip. We'll have to, we'll see what comes up in 2022 out here, and maybe we can get you out here to for some, I don't know, for some big crazy event. But in the
That'd be
meantime,
great.
it would be great because in the meantime, you go to Old Town Tequila, go to all the online retailers that you, Ms. Smith, mentioned earlier. Old Town is easy for us because I know Zach, and the majority of the guys that I know will order tequila from him. Good luck. I mean,
Go get it.
Good fortune to you and your team. The other two people who are probably part of your team. That's good you have a team, because I don't. It's me and I got 10 other tasters scattered all over the country. This is really cool. And next time you speak to Ana Maria, please give her our best. Tell her she's hit another home run. Again, just for people who know who the master distiller is, every brand she touches is a winner. Every single one. And I can name them off the top of my head, and they're probably really great favorites with a lot of guys and a lot of women as well. And as I said, like, you'll see the review, I'm sure, coming out early 2022. If you're a guy, don't be afraid of this bottle, okay? Because there's substance in this thing, and there's really something else in there. It is
very beautiful.
Yes, it's infused with a purpose, and that's what I love about it. And after speaking with you, I am convinced that that's what it is. So if there's somebody in the industry you need to meet, you just let me know, and I might have an email or a phone number for you.
I'm hopefully going to see Ana Maria down in Mexico in January, so I will let her know, because I'm going to do my repo tasting, and then I'll be in California at some point, hopefully in February. Anything I could do to escape the Chicago winter. So
yes.
It's chilly here
in February.
Yeah, well, it's chilly here.
It's cold here.
Yeah, cold for us is 40 degrees.
I was to say, I think it's a little different than our cold.
Yeah, we're not below freezing, and my pipes aren't frozen, but it's still, I'm wearing sweats, which is weird because I'm usually wearing, shorts. So whatever. Folks, you've been watching and listening to Open Bar with Mara Smith on all of our channels and networks. Please subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube. Hit the notification bell. Give us a like, because that helps with the algorithm, because we all know that life is run by the algorithm. I'm Mike in Southern California. That guy down there in the blue shirt is
Skip Falconer in Los Angeles. Go get it.
Yep. And this young lady is, go ahead.
Mara Smith, signing off from Chicago.
Yeah. And whatever you do, again, tomar sabiamente.
Sip wisely.